What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and today will be the start of a 3-part series where we go over all of the legendaries that each spec of Rogue will be able to craft and use in Shadowlands. Since I know a lot of people have preferences of what specialization of Rogue they play and what legendaries they're going to focus on first, that is why this will be a 3-part series, as I intend to cover each spec individually to explain the pros and cons of everything we'll be able to craft, and whether or not it might be worth it or not. With a little bit of bias, we're going to be starting with Outlaw, so let's see what our swashbuckling, pistol-wielding rogues will be able to use in Shadowlands. As a big forewarning and precaution, legendaries went through a lot of tuning on the beta, but that does not mean Blizzard might not just pull the rug out from underneath us and do tuning with Castle Nathria opening in the next week and Race for World First starting right after. Due to this and the fact that legendary crafting is a very time-gated process due to Soul Ash, I can't exactly guarantee which ones will be untouched or if Blizzard will even do any tuning to them at all, though I will express my concerns as needed while discussing each one in order. I also try to give credit whenever it's due, and while I've done a lot of my own sims and testing of legendaries now and on the beta, a massive amount of this information would not be possible without the fantastically knowledgeable and supportive theory crafters of the Ravenholdt Discord, so for any sneaky boys out there that haven't stopped by the home of a large portion of the Rogue community, I highly recommend taking some time to swing by there. In this video, I'll explain where each legendary is from, what pieces of armor they can be imbued onto, and a general opinion of their current state and performance barring any tuning changes, as well as some strengths and weaknesses of them where applicable. The video will also be segmented out into sections for each one to hopefully make it easier for you to find what information you're looking for. We'll start with the Outlaw specific legendaries and then the Rogue generic legendaries afterwards. For our first, most farmable legendary, we have Celerity. This legendary will come from Ventinax, the second boss in Spires of Ascension, which is a dungeon located in Bastion. As of this video, this is considered the best overall legendary for PvE content as Outlaw. It will cause your adrenaline rushes to apply an 8% damage boost for the entire duration of Adrenaline Rush, and it will also cause 3-second procs of Adrenaline Rush randomly while Slice and Dice is active. These mini procs will also give that 8% damage boost as well. And I've gotten this question a lot in the past. No, it does not work with the loaded dice talent, unfortunately, otherwise this legendary would be beyond amazing. It's still an exceptional legendary to farm and make and is literally the best one as of now, so barring any major tuning changes, this is the primo legendary that you'll want to craft. For armor slots, you can either put it on a ring or your shoulders. There's a bit of a debate as far as to what slot you should put a legendary power onto. Right now, the consensus is to put it on a ring, mainly because there's only one verse haste ring in the game for PvE content. Whereas you can get a bunch of shoulders, and agility, being our primary stat, is worth so much even if it's not good stats, a high item level pair of shoulders will always be strong. However, this also depends on your current gearing situation, cause for all I know, you have amazing rings, but terrible shoulders, so the shoulders would still be a better increase for your overall damage, so it's really up to you. Up next, we have Concealed Blunderbuss. This legendary comes from clearing the Soul Forge's wing in Torghast on Layer 3 or higher difficulty. Torghast's wings are on what appear to be a rotation though, so you'll need to check if the Soul Forge's wing is active when hunting for this one. Concealed Blunderbuss will cause your pistol shot opportunity procs to have a chance to shoot 2 extra pistol shots rapidly. This is considered one of the better legendaries currently, though not as strong as Celerity, and it's a little bit behind Greenskin's Wickers. As a bit of insight into how this legendary is buffed by our talents, the Quick Draw talent will only buff the initial hit of a pistol shot proc, even if you proc Concealed Blunderbuss. On the plus side though, the extra hits from Concealed Blunderbuss do give you extra combo points for those 2 extra hits, which is pretty nice. I briefly mentioned Greenskin's Wickers, which is our next Outlaw legendary. This drops from Sludge Fist, one of the bosses in the Castle Nathria raid that will be part of the first patch of Shadowlands. This legendary's effect will probably look very familiar to those of you who played in either Legion or Battle for Azeroth, as the Deadshot Azerite trait was based off the Legion version of this legendary power. For every combo point you spend on Between the Eyes, your next pistol shot will have a 20% chance per combo point to deal 200% more damage. So at 5 combo points, or 6 if you're running Deeper Stratagem, you're guaranteed to have this proc. The downside of this legendary is the lengthy cooldown that was applied in between the eyes compared to its original form, however it is still one of the better all-around choices in single target and AoE. Still lower than Celerity as of now, but if you liked the playstyle of Deadshot or the original Greenskin's legendary, then this is not a bad option to have by any means. This effect is buffed by Quick Draw as well, so it can result in some pretty strong hitting pistol shots, which of course we can Blade Flurry, because bullets can be spread in AoE obviously, right? Lastly is Guile Charm. This legendary comes from the world boss Mortanus. Due to the world bosses being on a set rotation, this will only show up once every 4 weeks. However, don't worry too much because as of now, it is the lowest simming of the Outlaw specific legendaries. This basically gives us a weakened version of the old Bandit's Guile mechanic that combat rogues had prior to Outlaw existing. So basically, every time your Sinister Strike hits, it will give you a stacking damage buff. And every few hits, this buff will go up from Shallow Insight, to Moderate Insight, to Deep Insight. This will range from a 3% damage boost to 6%, and then reaching 10% at the maximum amount. Once you reach that amount, you have 10 seconds to use this damage boost until it resets to nothing, in which you start the cycle again. This was honestly one of the legendaries I was originally most excited to see, but due to tuning and nerfs more than anything, it is sadly the lowest one in performance of the bunch. Unless there are some tuning changes to it, or you're really just nostalgic, this is probably something you won't craft unless you just want to have every legendary in the game. Very unfortunate. For generic legendaries, these will be usable by all 3 specs of Rogue, so I'll go over them in situations that benefit Outlaw the most in their current tuning. Our first one, which in my opinion is one of the best ones to make if you plan on playing multiple specs, especially for world content, dungeons, and even PvP, is Master Assassin. This legendary comes from the Affront of Challengers, which is the first boss in the Theater of Pain dungeon in Maldraxxus. This will increase your critical strike chance by 100% once you leave stealth for 4 seconds. This is a literal 100% stat increase, as I know sometimes people can be misled thinking it's multiplicative or additive or whatever, but yeah, you're guaranteed crits for 4 seconds after leaving stealth with this. This is quite exceptional in Mythic Plus if you're able to re-stealth in between packs and you don't have a tank that pulls like a maniac and chain pulls the whole frickin' dungeon. It's also pretty nice in Torghast since you can stealth between groups to benefit from this huge crit proc. Outside of that, it's a pretty meh rating legendary. It does not trigger from Shadowlands for anyone thinking it might, by the way. I'm not even talking about subtlety, but I know someone will ask anyways. I've gotten that question a lot. Up next is Essence of Bloodfang, which overall is a pretty average legendary across all 3 specs of Rogue. However, for Outlaw, it's pretty unimpressive outside of pure single target. This legendary comes from the Stone Legion generals in Castle Nathria and basically makes your combo point generators have a chance to apply a bleed to your target, and you will heal 50% of the damage dealt to that target from your bleed. Now that might sound amazing on paper because you're probably thinking it works with Blade Flurry. Well, no. It only affects the combo point generator on the target, so literally only the single target since we don't have an AoE combo point generator like the other 2 specs with Shuriken Storm and Fan of Knives respectively. It's honestly pretty okay for subtlety and assassination, but for us pirate boys it just probably won't ever be worth using, unfortunately. We also have Tiny Toxic Blade, which, yeah, it's not very good as Outlaw. It has a chance to be a reward from the Great Vault, which is your weekly reward cache, but yeah, don't hold your breath for this one. It increases the damage of Shiv by 350% and makes it cost no energy, but as Outlaw you're really only using Shiv as a utilitarian move, so this one is pretty lame overall. Next is Invigorating Shadowdust. This is a legendary that you can purchase from the PvP honor vendor for 1500 honor. This will cause Vanish to reduce the cooldown of all of your other abilities by 20 seconds. In terms of DPS gains, this is one of the lowest ones of the bunch. However, for improved crowd control and utility, this could be potentially an interesting option, though I'd say maybe more in a PvP perspective, or maybe in Torghast, because there's some powers where you can get the cooldown of Vanish off faster just by killing things, so maybe, probably not though. Lastly is Deathly Shadows. This was originally a Subtlety Rogue legendary power in the beta, but it works in all 3 specs and now shows up in our legendary powers as an option, so I guess it was moved to a generic power. This comes from Torghast if you can complete layer 3 or higher of the Fracture Chambers. This legendary causes your Vanish to increase your damage dealt by 15% for 12 seconds and actually sims pretty good in most situations as Outlaw. This is mainly because Outlaw has very good cooldown reduction effects like Restless Blades and True Bearing, so we can get Vanish off much more often than either Assassination or Subtlety. For those two, it doesn't sim all that great, but for us, it might actually become a pretty viable option depending on how tuning goes, if there is any tuning on the other legendaries. And there you go, folks. All of the Outlaw-specific and generic rogue legendaries that you'll be able to get your hands on and craft with a little bit of luck. Overall, across the board, Celerity is looking like the top dog in virtually all PvE content. However, that can literally change at the drop of a hat as soon as Blizzard does, or if they do, any tuning before Castle Nathria comes out or before the Mythic Race for World first starts. Other than that, though, Greenskin's Wickers is looking to be a pretty solid alternative and is good in virtually all content as well. And Master Assassin is looking like a fantastic generic legendary, especially if you do a lot of dungeons, PvP, and it's pretty good in Torghast too. I hope this video was helpful to you, and if so, any likes, comments, or new subscribers are all fantastic ways of showing your support for the channel. If you're new around to my little corner of the YouTube algorithm, then I'd like to welcome you to come check out the rest of the channel. I do new uploads every weekday on a variety of content, ranging from guides such as this one, week aura videos, add-on videos, tutorials for add-ons, and especially rogue-specific things. I'd also like to take this time to thank all of my regular viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially my patrons, who all help make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.